Here at ACO Radio, American Communications Online, or any affiliated stations or websites are not responsible for what guest hosts or call-ins may say. All programming is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only.
Hello, world. Oh, wow. Hope you're having a great and wonderful, beautiful day around the world. And I do mean world. We have gone international, not that we weren't before, but we just didn't really have it in our psyche, did we? Growing up in America, this is Teresa Jeanette Thurmond Morris, and my husband is deceased, but I still use his name Morris because it's closer in the alphabet to the beginning. And all my life, I've stood in the back of the lines in school. If you remember how that was in America, if your name started with a T, you were always way back in the line. So I decided, even though he's passed on, I was his wife 20 years, and I miss him so much. Thomas Ray Morris, I'm thinking of you on the other side. So this show is all about helping those on the ground, the boots on the ground, those that are in the grassroots, in the hedges, and all the people that vote with their purchasing power. That is their almighty power in voting with one vote. So everyone in America is important, but even more so when you become of voting age, as most of you found out in the last year of 2020. So hindsight is 2020, and today I'm glad to still be alive. So God bless America. God bless everyone. Little Tiny Tim, too, wherever you are, all those out there working that are disabled, and doing your best to survive and thrive on a planet that is all about learning what you can do to help others, be in service to others, and this is my part. It does cost me, so anybody that likes what you hear today, I would appreciate it. If you make a small donation, would help me stay on the air. I will come and do this more often, so please let me know, because now that I have some time in the world, I'm going to help others with all of our associations that are unincorporated associations online, social media, and helping others just to know that they exist so they have some feedback. Now, changing my whole reality around, because I'm not usually an early person, and I hope you can hear me because I don't know how to turn off this Facebook. Oh, great. Great. Well, folks, this phone, I've got to swap my phones today because this one's going to keep cutting me off because of the way it's built with me and my apps. I've apparently given more importance to apps such as Facebook, and I've got to change those settings. So if you can hear me, I'm going to be just a moment here, a little technical operation going on, and do my best to keep myself where you can hear me while I welcome other people into our reality, into the TJ Morris world, and hope I can keep you interested for the next little bit of time with women that do work from home, and that includes me. We're all out here trying to learn to survive together, and due to my phone complications, I don't know if you can hear me or not. So let me get on. Today's guest is Melinda T Clare. She's also a woman at home building a business. I've never met her. And we're going to do our best to attempt to talk today about some things that have changed in our life. It's got a little bit more complicated since I grew up. Now, she's younger than me. Melinda T Clare, is that you, and can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, Teresa J. Morris.
Oh. Thank you. I was talking away, and my phone had put me on hold. These electronics seem to have more power than we give them, or if we give it to them, some of us baby boomers, as my great-granddaughters call me, the boomers, that we're so old we don't know how to operate our phones properly, and this is true in my case. So, Melinda T. Clare, we're going to talk today about Women's Lunch on Wednesday, something new, and I'm doing this strictly for Melinda T. Clare. She must have some very powerful spiritual goodness in her to get me to want to get up, because I was up till 1 o'clock working around the world last night, because I do website building. For those of you that want to know what I do as a developer, I am one of those people that put the information around different websites for different groups and associations and help them be visible in their groups that work in social media. And a lot of people do this every day. We're slaves to social media. But I've been paying to have an BTR account since 2012, Blog Talk Radio with Mr. Levy out of New York. And I've invited Melinda T. Clare today. After the many years, I began in June, Melinda. June, this is my anniversary coming up. June 3rd is the official day when I paid my bill, and began in 2012. So how many years is that, Melinda? So next year,
so now that's 9 years.
Okay, so you are joining me at the 9th year, which is a number in numerology, number 9, the ending. 9 long years doing radio shows.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. Well, good. Well, we're starting all over again, and you must be blessed.
I'm delighted to take in the opportunity and chance to work with you, seeing that you have so many projects and so many different things that you can offer a person and teach. Your life is rich, as you know, and I'm just like a book. Actually going to be learning more from you, because you never stop learning. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're 80 or 90. If you have a PhD, I have a Master of Science, but I don't think you stop learning, only if you really want to shut that down. But you just continue to learn and blossom as a human being on the planet, and there's just so much to learn from other people like yourself, who is really skilled at various skills and skill sets of technology, and I appreciate that with a great abundance to the universe.
Wow, and that's not a paid infomercial, folks. That was good, Melinda, and I appreciate that. So I'm turning on my other phone.
You're welcome, because when I continue to read about you and see the things that you put up on the internet, it's abundance. You talk about different topics, sciences. You talk about teaching and educating people, and that's a big thing we need to do today in general. A lot of people don't realize how important knowledge is. They really don't. I don't think some people grasp that. I don't know if it's where you're from, because I was born and raised in New York City. And, when I came up, and that's not that long ago, my mother raised me with the value system that the education that you get is going to be like a blueprint. But I don't think it's only just a blueprint, but it gives you wings you can fly. I have wings. I can go anywhere. If I didn't want to stay in America, years ago, even now, and I've had my master's for some time, I can go anywhere, because people respect you when you have more knowledge. It's just, you can't explain that almost to a certain degree, And I think with our country and where we're going, we should be looking towards getting more educated, notoriety for things, having the skills we need for jobs, computer skills. The communication skills are very important, Like I said, where you come from, whether it's a southern state versus a this state, the north state, whatever. But we all should come with impeccable skills, communicating to each other that we can have a conversation, and walk away with something, knowing that person described this, that, and the other, and whatever that situation was. You know, a lot of times people don't want to communicate. Why? Because they don't have the skill set, you know. And like I said, it depends on where you're from. Some people, some places in the state, the country, make it a big deal that you have these skills, whether you get a degree in them or you minor in classes. I was always encouraged to minor in stuff. For instance, I minored in Black and Puerto Rican Studies and Spanish. I took Spanish in college too, and I was able to utilize it in teaching. So knowledge is a powerful thing. It gives you wings. It gives you the ability to do things that others can't, because you're stopped if you don't have the knowledge. And if you have the more skill set and the training combined with it, you got a lot of awakenings and things that you can do with your life. So the life that I see when I read about you, Teresa, and stuff like that, you know, that's what I see and hear and feel. And that it's a wonderful energy because there's always something to learn. You never stop.
Well, you have obviously been able to grasp communication skills, especially being a teacher. I'd like to learn more about you, Melinda, because usually on this particular show, the way I built this was around doing interviews when a person first comes on, and all of us do it, even Google. We do the first is to get to know you, the person. So since this is a good opportunity today for women and Wednesday lunches, if people like it, we can ask them to let us know, and we'll bring you back. But let's get started with a story of origin of you, because I hear a New Jersey accent that my former co-host for almost 9 years, Thomas Anthony Sinisi of New Jersey, he had the same accent. So were you born in New Jersey? Tell us about you, where you were born, your family. I was born and
raised in Brooklyn, New York, East Flatbush, New York, to be exact. And I lived there for many, many years, my early upbringing. And when I was about 20, I left Brooklyn, and then I went to Hunter College, and I lived in Manhattan for some years. And then I moved to Long Island, and then I moved to Staten Island. But, you know, I basically lived a good years of my life in Brooklyn. So that's where I was born and raised.
And your parents, are you, like I'm like fifth generation immigrant from Europe?
My mother is from the Caribbean. She's from Jamaica, Westmoreland, Jamaica, born and raised there. And my dad is from Grenada, and he is the first African-American captain of the United States for the Staten Island Ferry.
Whoa, what a pedigree
now,
you
if I gave you his name, it comes up on the internet because they had a big party for him when he retired after 30 years of service. And, that's my history. I have a little bit. My grandparents. My grandmother was from Jamaica as well. She was from Clarendon, Jamaica, and she came here when she was in her late 60s, almost 70s, I say. And she passed away maybe almost 20 years ago. And she was a wonderful soul. She wasn't highly educated, but she had a great presence and just something about her that kept the family together. And I kind of took a lot of that. So that's kind of like where my strength comes in when things were going in life and problems. I kind of went to that side of my head, and it's like it brought me joy and comfort because she was strong. She always said, don't let people step all over you. You know, you're light-skinned, don't let them she was the opposite of me. She was very dark-skinned. And she goes, they're treating you like, you have no sense, so you're stupid. Like that.
Oh, wow.
And she, you know, with what she came up with and how she knew best, she did what she did. But she was very good in math and reading and stuff like that. And my grandfather, my mother's father, was from Jamaica as well, and he was a chef. My grandmother was a pastry chef, and he was a real chef, traveling the world. And he was very passionate about that. And, you know, I always would like to go there because I've never been to the Caribbean. And his daughter, she is a few years younger than me, which is interesting, okay? So it's an interesting story, you know, when you look up people's names, you know, and you can find out stuff, and sometimes it ends somewhere because there's no more information on that person. But he was a chef and traveled the world, and very renowned for his time and what he did, and he was very passionate of what he did. He loved cooking, my grandfather. And so I came from two people that love cooking. My grandmother is a pastry chef, so she's the tarts and the sweets, and he's the cooking, the real deal of the, you know, house and stuff like that. So it was a very interesting upbringing because I was born and raised here in the U.S. and having the parents from two different parts of regions of the West Indies. So I came from a rich background.
So you are the first generation American born in...
Yes, I am.
Wow. How about that? And you're in your 40s,
right? It's so funny.
Right?
Sometimes people think that I am like, I was born there. And I'm like, no, I was not. I don't even know what it looks like, you know? And they're like, you never been? No, I've never been to the Caribbean. I'm sorry. Yes, I have been, but I've never been to Jamaica. I've been to Florida when I was the teeny tot of a teenager, and I didn't like it because it was very hot. And then we went to, my family, my dad's brother and my aunt, we went to Nassau, and we went to Bahamas. So I got to see what it was. It was nice over there. I thought it was beautiful. I would live there rather than not here.
Well,
so
I live in Florida.
Yes, I know.
You know, in the Panhandle now, closer to, I'm at near Pensacola's, just across the bridge. They just opened up again. We had during a hurricane. Of course, I'm back in hurricane season again, so everybody pray for us here. But Pensacola Naval Air Station, I was in the Navy, and I've been all over, but I did get to go to Nassau in the Bahamas, and I loved it down there. But in 2017, I had to spend a few months in Tampa, roughly 3 to 6 months, back and forth for up till my daughter passed due to her cancer. But, you know, now that I've lost my husband and my daughter, we all have stories to tell. And me being like a fifth generation from Europe, both sides, Liverpool, England was Bolton on my mother's side. My dad's Thurmond, and they came over to the Carolinas and built the railroad through Ripley, Mississippi. And then his father moved over to Monroe, Louisiana, where I was born. And I was born the day after Christmas, 51. So I'm a Capricorn with Aquarian rising in astrology, which I didn't learn about astrology until the early, 70s, and I got into my tarot card reading. But I was raised Latter-day Saint from May 12th, 1972, Houston, Texas, where my mother had divorced my dad in Monroe and moved to Houston. So my path goes from Monroe, Louisiana to Houston, Texas, and then to Birmingham, University of Alabama, where I went to college there and worked at, what do they call it, Southern Living Magazine, Decorating Craft Ideas. So how many jobs and how many places have you lived? Because this is important for women to realize. A lot of us can go all over, but it really depended on my family and my jobs and how we live. And it was easier it didn't seem any easier when I was young, but people today feel like we had it easy. And they talk like, well, that was back during time when your parents wanted better for you. But my mother was born in 1932, and apparently they had Hitler and then the Korean War. And so by the time they got through high school in Washita Parish along the Washita River in Monroe, Louisiana, she went to homemaking, and she only strove to be she just wanted to be a housewife. They talked in the early 50s of late 40s and early 50s of being the perfect woman, stay at home and wore big dresses and aprons and cooked all day and had children. But then my dad, after her father died and left her money to build a house, that they built a house, and my dad told her she was going to have to go to work to pay for all the furniture she was buying. So she did. And my life, her mother worked as a PBX operator, and her mother was a school teacher, and then all my relatives worked at like Northeast Louisiana and the high schools. They all became teachers. But I've got other relatives that moved out to Portland, Oregon, and started a big company, retail, the Richmond stores, RICHMAN. So do you have brothers and sisters? And I would like to know where they live.
Oh, they live. They're in Brooklyn.
What's going on in the background? Can you mute that?
I said they're in the city, New York City. Hold on. You hear me?
Yeah.
All right, hold on one second.
If you're sitting in front of a computer, you'll have to turn it down.
Yeah, they're in Brooklyn.
Okay. Oh, there's one thing about working on radio is you have to have quiet and be in a room by yourself.
Huh?
Are you on a cell phone?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you move? Are you near something electronic?
What happened?
Are you near something electronic?
I'm in my office.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll have to turn off the equipment, or at least step away from. It'll pick up the electronic. It's funny.
If I'm near a desk, will it be a problem?
Oh no! I just heard there was an awful lot. When you go back and listen to this recording,
I turned my computer off.
Oh, okay. That's better. Yeah. That way you don't get any feedback. You can have your computer on to refer. You just have to make sure your sound is down.
Okay.
I have to turn mine off. So, folks, this is our first. We're starting all over again, I guess, for another 9 years with Melinda T Clare from not Hoboken, New Jersey. What city are you in?
Huh?
You're in New Jersey, right? What city are you broadcasting from on your phone?
I don't want to talk about that.
Oh, okay.
I don't like that stuff. I don't like giving my information out.
Okay, but New Jersey, because we're broadcasting from New York, so you should be pretty close to. In other words, you're broadcasting from New Jersey into New York. We have the office right there.
Mm-hmm.
So all that feedback I'm hearing is just from your equipment. So, yeah. So it's real simple to work with Blog Talk Radio. Folks, if you want to have your own show, you just have to pay the money to have the studio hooked up. And the first 30 minutes, you can learn how to use it. But I've been doing it for 9 years, and I pay for monthly shows every day. And I did it mainly to help people that were having an event. And they asked me to help because people were having me come on their radio shows on Blog Talk. So the gentleman that brought me on said, why don't you have your own show, being that you're a contactee, extraterrestrial contactee, because he found that amusing, and that's why he brought me on. So, here we go, TJ Morris ET. So the TJET radio can be for entertainment tonight or today, or it can be for extraterrestrial. So, being that you have a background and have a beautiful family from around the world, and you're a woman of color, you can help me with today's show because I saw a picture. You've got a beautiful soul, beautiful aura around you, and you're highly educated and a very, apparently very well connected in New York because you've been in public relations, not only as a school teacher, as an educator, which runs right down my alley and my background. But
I've been in the public relations field a long time. I met a lot of people. Some people you keep contact. Some people, it stays. Some people it doesn't. But I've remained with some people because they do give you interesting projects and work to do, and you can learn from it and grow from it.
So you're helping yourself, and you're right. I do a lot. I don't get paid for it.
I try my best to work with something or someone that is profitable. So whether it's profitable in the sense that they're going to get notoriety in a buzz feed, somebody's going to say, well, we want them to come on our show, and then I'll go and write about them. I'm a writer. I love to do publicity like that, okay? So I'll write about you, but I want you to come on. I want you to play the game. You have to be respectful and come in a certain way. Because I know if I was the person that she was on the other foot, and I'm the maybe athlete or whatever, and I want to get back in the groove, I have to play a certain way with people. Respect, boundaries, everything. Because if you take it for granted, people just not work with you, and that's just the way it goes. I meet a lot of people who have skills, but if you don't know what you're doing and don't know how to market them, you're lost, and they just don't even get nothing happen with them. Or if it might be their attitude. If their attitude a little arrogant or nasty, you hear it or I hear it, what's going to happen? One of us is going to say, not. Next person, you know what I mean? So people that want to make or break into the media in any shape or form, you have to remember, come with a humble self, a humble soul. You're there picking up and learning what that person can teach you and bring you somewhere. So an advancement of that person's power or strength, take it as a learning experience and take it really seriously, not just for granted. And that's how I try to talk to people, let them understand. Initially, sometimes people like myself don't get paid. We just are the word of mouth people. Somebody got me introduced to this, to that one, to that one. And then at the end of the day, if the person is worth something and helping them to bring this story, then it comes together and it comes to a head and we can make it happen. Get it in a couple of news stories, newspapers or magazines or both. So it takes time. And this process, there's no right way, wrong way, really. There's just the human way and just trying to be appropriate and courteous to everyone. Because this time that we're living right now, we're living through a very different time than anybody's ever seen. Going back to this pandemic that we're still in, it's still there, So I just try to be respectful to all people, and I don't care what background, how they seem or look, male or female, in our way that we speak and how do we navigate our conversations. The sex of people is something that's being used and the expressions are being changed because of our society. So gender is complicated.
Yes, it is.
No one has this completely figured it out. Acknowledging this complexity was once the norm. Many cultures before colonization had terms and expressions far beyond what we have available today. So the vocabulary, especially in and around the transgender community, has exploded with a variety of words to express a countless number of genders and facets of gender experience. this is a real big thing. There's like an explosion literally like now when we're talking about words and how do you refer to people, okay? And not because a person might look or you might think because she's a little bit or he is maybe a little bit more male looking than, we're all got to treat them with respect and integrity. And because of the explosion, it's a combination of reclamation and creation. But we have to be wary of creation under colonization. So there's a lot of things that's going on right now. And to give people the right titles and gender appropriateness, we have to be very sensitive and careful of how we refer to people, because some people could think the opposite of what you're saying, So you're thinking about it. This is more than, it's a bigger picture than just, it's part of why we created this primer as an attempt to document the movement to express and identify the complexity. See, this is a major thing. It's the complexity of gender while acknowledging its history and intersections. There are some terms in this primer that are not directly related to the gender, but are still defined in order to help set the context within each rest of the primer is established. So again, gender is extremely personal. It's the ability to try to express our understanding of gender is personal and complicated. It is, and it will forever be, because someone could look a certain way. Like, for instance, I'm sure everyone's up to date with Demi Lovato. She's an artist, and she came out as non-binary. Now, that's a very interesting situation there, and that's the way she wants to be referred to as. So all these different expressions of gender, it's a way to serve to express who we are in different ways, male or female, the different words, the different phrases, So it's just something that we have to understand and adapt to, because our gender is extremely personal. Trying to express our understanding of gender is personal and complicated, and the words help us express those things that we try to do ourselves. So it's important that you come across someone that, they may not seem like you, but each and every one of us is to be given the same amount of respect and integrity as each other. There is something called assigned gender at birth, no designated gender at birth or intersex. So this explains it is sometimes written as GAAB or GAB, gas. This refers to what gender someone was assigned at birth. This is used when talking about a range of people who experience a set of common issues based on their birth assessment. So that's very interesting. There's a lot of things that people do with their lives and their bodies and themselves, and the AGAB is used by many transgender people to talk about their gender experience without having to use the narratives about what gender they used to be. That's very interesting. That dynamic right there. I mean, it's powerful stuff. They're telling you how these people want to be referred to and remembered, classified, whatever you want to identify. So it's very important to pay attention, because you don't want to mess up, use the wrong term to identify or use to refer to someone. So sometimes seen as an AGAB, IS is to be inclusive of intersex people who are dealing with similar situations, but who do not identify with binary assignment label, e.g., AFAB. People should generally get gap smears as it can help find and treat issues before they become life-threatening. So let me explain here. The AMAB, all bold letters, people face high rates of harassment when outwardly expressing themselves in what is commonly seen as a feminine manner. So, like I said, no matter how a person appears, that package of a human, male or female, it doesn't matter. If they're to a woman, one might think, oh, that one is kind of more feminine, more masculine. It doesn't matter. You have to be very careful of the words, phrases, tones, or anything, expression you use on these people, because it's not acceptable. So as we go on in life, you learn that these identification, ways of classifying people or discussing them have been used to discuss them in a better light so they can be respected and treated with fairness. So that's all we're trying to express here, okay? The time that we live in it's changing terminologies when it comes to sex, and that's what this conversation is about. And it's interesting when you see someone on TV and you go, oh, sometimes, is that a man? Is that, So when they're in your face, straight in your eyes, you have to give them the utmost respect, because each one of them are just like another male or female that's 100% heterosexual. So in agender, you want to say that this is people that define their gender in a variety of ways. Some agender people define their gender as being neither a man nor a woman, while others understand themselves as not having any gender at all. So let's reiterate. Agender people may or may not transition physically, legally, or socially. So, Teresa, that's a very interesting dynamic there.
It is. I've been tall and look like a man as far as height. 5'11". I've been called Amazon and had sexual innuendos because I was considered above average in looks, and I resented that. So most of my life I was wanting to be a boy. So I didn't know there was a word for what I had as a tomboy, like gender dysphoria now, but I always felt like I was in the wrong body. So that's why I relate more as going on 70 to more of an extraterrestrial entity, having died and came back. There's a whole other area that we need to address. And I would think that might be beginning to start under agender. People definitely don't want to define their gender like me, because we're not even sure, because our spirit feels more masculine in a woman's body, but I'm not attracted to male or female, which makes me asexual. But let's talk about that non-binary and transgender umbrella.
That's really interesting.
I know that's a lot to tell somebody that I don't know, and Melinda and I are just getting to know each other, and she's very educated, and, I've had a lot of jobs, but growing up, I swear, I guess God put me in a place where I grew up in the South and believed in a higher power and a source, and got into metaphysics and studied world religions, but I didn't study any of this. And I love RuPaul. I think he's a wonderful artist, and he's become a multimillionaire and married a wonderful man living in Montana, and they're happily ever after, you know. So I've learned a lot. My brother was gay, Melinda, in Houston, Texas. He was on Oprah Winfrey. And he didn't know what he was, and we didn't have the words to tell him. We never knew he was gay. He didn't know he was gay, and he lived with me after I had divorced my husband and was in the military, and I'd moved I was in the military, but I moved back home to Houston. And he went to we didn't know what to do with him. He was a twin in my mother's womb when he was born with my sister Wendy, but they were not identical twins. So Wendy's a beautiful blonde, blue-eyed. He was dark-skinned, hazel eye, sort of fuzzy hair on the back of his neck, and just like two different parts of my mother, but they were like two different kittens. One was male, one was female. But Wendy was always shy and reserved little girl, and he was just, I told Mother when he was born, Mom, there's something wrong or something different about him. But I could feel as a child his spirit. But I had died as a child in the second grade, so I knew spiritually things felt different to me, and I used to have to keep my mouth shut. So I wonder if this agender, if there's agender people define their gender in a variety of ways. So I don't know if all this stuff I'm talking about, beyond my brother being born, I believe that people are born that way. They may, and some may not even be born to know what gender they are going to be, and that's why I think
that's
that the
true.
children.
I agree. I mean, I've never met anybody in my lifetime so far. I mean, the only thing of genders and changing, you know, who you are is people I've seen on TV. You know, Bruce Jenner and now he's Caitlyn Jenner and, you know, Chaz Bono and whatever. But other than that, I've never, you know, I've seen people that you look at them and you're like, you know, you stand there and you look like, what is that, a man or a woman, you know, and just make you just like like confused, you know. So, but, you know, at the same time, like I said, if someone comes up to me, I'm in a store, like, you know, you're in a really well-known area where these individuals hang out, whatever, they're known, fine, I have no problem. I just respect people accordingly and just treat them with the same, you know, respect that I am, you know.
Well, let's say what we're using today, folks, is a primer prepared by a let's see, what was the name of that? Home Primer Index. It's an
Transgender.
organization. Okay, and we're really happy that they did this, and that's our source, so we need to
Home
cite that.
Primer X Pride Flags About or whatever. That's the whole title. But that's a roundabout of this whole thing, and it's a really in-depth discussion because, as like I said, whatever I've read and explained, it's really interesting. Like I said, I have not in my lifetime. I don't think I've met anybody, you know, that have experienced this, or no one has ever said it, so I don't know. You know, you can know somebody and you don't know what they are in those, you know, interesting ways. But I could say I don't think I've met anyone like this. And I know it's not an easy way to go about life because you have to express what happened and, you know, give the explanation to whoever asking you, and it's a lot of stuff. So I'm sure the life of this person. Huh?
What do you think? Like, I was assigned at birth my gender as a female. My brother, although he grew up with effeminate ways and looking different, he was never really accepted by men or women growing up, so I know how hard it was for him in school. But because he had an outie, he was a boy, and because I had an innie, I was a girl. But I had jobs like law enforcement, criminal justice, investigator, cop. Let's see, I went in the military. I wore uniforms. I learned weapons. I drove a big truck over the road, 18-wheeler for years. We pulled for Microsoft, U.S. Treasury, and, got clearances, and then went into personnel information security. And, I was always, do you understand? Now, my good side was like with you in Barbizon. Remember you and I talked about we were both in Barbizon as kids. I did modeling, and I went to Arthur Murray Dance Studio. So I also learned while I was a mother to be very effeminate, and I was in beauty contests, Miss Astro in Houston, and won contest about being beautiful, and, so I knew how to be a woman, but I grew out of that in the 80s. So from 50 to the 80, I was very feminine because I had a any. You know what I'm talking about, our gender on birth. So, but the older I got and the more masculine or leadership roles I was put in, not because I wanted to, and I always said that, but because I was 5'11", and in the military I weighed 176 with like 3% body fat, which was almost impossible for women. I had very skin on muscle, so I was a very masculine woman, but I was still beautiful, in my looks. And there's pictures of me in my uniform, but that was the second time around. But okay, so you and I are speaking as women, and I was asked that. Now, used to not people when I grew up, there was only male and female. They didn't ask you on these applications. Now, what we're talking about in today's reality in 2021 with women working at home is helping us become more educated about how we speak. And I found this to be of importance because it is affecting our world in communication, information, education. And we have misinformation, disinformation, and information we have been sharing for years here. And Melinda, being a teacher, she's doing a good job at helping me and learn how we can address these words that are now part of, I guess, our reality. But can we go forward with this? It's transgender primer language is people that are of a group of people, and I don't think they're paid. I would like to establish with you, Melinda, that people like us that don't get paid, that help do things, we pay for our own resources, and we do need, people that help us, but everybody is used to getting paid a job's wage, and a lot of these people had no way to support themselves that were different, had to go into the sex work industry. With you being an educated teacher, how would you say that properly if you were in a brick and mortar educated, teaching at Harvard or something up there? How would you address that? Because we know that they go out on the street for lack of jobs. People are not accepted anywhere. And it became, at least during the time, let's say RuPaul from Atlanta to New York to California, they knew about those 70s and the clubs, but fortunately disco music took off. I think music and entertainment saved RuPaul as, an entertainer. But you mentioned, I love RuPaul, and you mentioned Cher's daughter. Did you ever get that feeling when you saw her on stage with Sonny and Cher? Now, you're, 20 or 30 years younger than me, but did you ever get to see Sonny and Cher with her? I remember when they first introduced her on their show. I made sure I was up to watch that. Do you remember when she came on the show with Sonny and Cher?
I don't think I saw it. I'm going to be honest. I don't think I saw it.
Oh, okay.
I'm a big Sonny and Cher fan, but I don't think I saw that.
Me too.
Yes, I love Cher. I love Lucy.
I got to meet Sonny and Cher and their mother, Cher's mother. Yeah, I did. When they came to Houston, Texas, I was a beautiful teenager in the Houston Spinnerettes and was in a red velvet outfit and a red cowboy hat. It's on YouTube. You can see it. and on my website somewhere, mostly YouTube. But, yeah, I got to meet them and greet them as a Houston ambassador. And she was, she didn't talk much. Her mother said hello, was friendly. But Bono, Sonny came over flirting with me, of course, talked about how tall and beautiful I was, to me personally, and I was embarrassed. So I looked at the lady that had in our group if I could speak back because, but I got to speak with him. And then he and I got to fly on a plane later in life. We crossed paths again while he was either a senator, governor, or mayor or something. I was out flying to California, and he and I sat next to each other on a plane. Isn't that strange? But going back to the gender identity, how we wear our clothes and how we wear, I'm tall, and for years, Melinda, I wore men's jeans with a big belt buckle, carried a knife on my hip, and, wore men's clothes and wore boots and cowboy hat driving a truck.
See, I'm very girly. I'm a girly girl. The only thing that probably don't look girly on me is my hair, because my hair is not as thick as it used to be. But when I put on a hairpiece or whatever, I'm all woman, I'm all girl.
Well, I am now, but then all I did was wore men's clothes for 8 years.
Yes, some people are different,
Yeah. Well, my mother asked me to stop wearing. She came and reformed me in Kentucky. And when I became, in 2004, I was a music producer and with CMA, Country Music Association, and International Bluegrass Music Association, and became a singer-songwriter, country, bluegrass, gospel, and helped with the Bill Monroe Foundation and Campbell Mercer and getting them in TV and with the county. And it was a wonderful thing in Ohio County. I wrote for the newspaper there. So I've done so many jobs. I've been fortunate. I've been blessed, Melinda, that wherever I went, I had at least 1, 2, or 3 jobs. I was one of those kind of people that had to stay busy. So it sounds crazy to people if they ever saw if I was sat down in every city I've lived and put every job I've had, it would be amazing. And most of them weren't even paid. I would just take them to, like you said, to get the education, to learn how to do things, to meet people, to network. Right? And so if I had to be masculine, I could do that job. My kids called me Superwoman because I was so strong. And if I had to be a beautiful woman and I've been at conventions where I just stand there and hand out samples to people, or be a taste tester. So there's all kind of jobs. But this gender system with what we're working with today, we didn't have to worry about offending people in all the jobs I had. So now I'm retired at home running a company in marketing, digital marketing, public relations, and talking on radio shows for 9 years and meeting people like you that can come help me figure all this out. So you being a teacher, can you help us with some of these things? Let's talk about this. What's next? D is I want to get to cross-dresser, but just cisgender. This people we're doing this because our face. We have to know. Oh, I like chosen family too. I'm scrolling down this list of words and definitions we're putting up because we're going to discuss this. What catches your eye? What catches your eye in the B's? Because we won't be able to handle everything. There's bisexual. Some of these.
Yeah, there's so many terms.
Well, there's some of them is we did birth assignment, didn't we? You signed at birth. Let's do bisexual. Now, why don't you read about that to us, and let's discuss that for a minute, because that's interesting.
Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on a second. Yeah, okay. I got it. Hold on.
Okay. Let's talk about that possible definition of what that is to people. Because,
which one?
Education is important. It's in the B's. Do you have the A through Z list, or did you get it? Bisexual?
Yeah, hold on. 1 second.
I have the list pulled up that was under, let's see, we were talking about birth and then binaryism, an adjective referring to people, erasing, antagonizing people whose genders are outside of the gender binary, indigenous and colonized cultures, erasers of indigenous genders by colonialism, echoed in cultures
it's
worldwide.
very interesting. I mean, the stuff that it talks about, the primer does not include some terms that are generally considered offensive in order to educate folks on why these terms are not okay. So we have to make a generalization there that those terms will not be put in quotes to designate that they are complicated or inaccurate. So this primer also includes somewhat graphic description of common medical procedures in order to educate folks on what these procedures entail. And then we will designate these graphic descriptions with a content note in red text. So I guess they really come out and straight say what this is and what, so another thing is that we try to include that if it failed this on some level, please let us know. We can connect it. We want people to use this guide to be able to avoid potentially triggering descriptions if we can get help, if we can help it. So basically utilizing the language, the words with the right people and describing them. Here we have assigned gender at birth, and, it goes into that. And we have agender and goes into what an agender is in a variety of ways. Some gender people define their gender as being neither a man nor a woman, while others understand themselves as not having any gender at all. Now that's interesting, right, Teresa?
Yeah, and the bisexual is someone attracted to more than one or two or more genders. So it's what you're attracted to. Bisexuality basically has a history of people understood that they are sexually attracted to both men and women, but a growing understanding of gender. Wow. The definition of bisexuality has grown to encompass not only its historical meaning, but also a wide range of experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Geez. So there's terms, but we can't intermingle them if we don't understand how to educate people on what it means. Now, through the years, just in terms and talk, I've had people ask me if I was bisexual.
Mm-hmm.
So because I was I was like, no. Because I'm married and had children and I was assigned as a female, I don't cross over. I'm not bisexual, meaning I'm not attracted to women.
So they have the allosexual, which is allosexuality, someone who is not asexual. And it's someone who experiences sexual attraction irrelevant of whether or not they engage in any sexual behavior. That's really interesting right there. So an allosexual person experiences sexual attraction. Shepherd is allosexual. That's an example.
Are you allosexual? I'm not. I'm asexual.
I'm heterosexual.
You're what?
Heterosexual.
Oh, you're heterosexual. Well, we hadn't got that far down yet.
But that's what I consider myself. This stuff is really, really, really it really gets in deep, boy. It's really interesting.
Well,
then the androgyne people define their gender in a ways of ways. Some androgyne people define their gender as being between men and women, while others understand themselves as being outside of the binary gender spectrum altogether. So how would you approach this person, Teresa?
Androgyny? I have friends that way. And
you do?
There's an androgynous. Yeah, there's a friend of mine. Well, I'm a contributor to his YouTube, Morg. I don't know his real name, but I met an albino musician while my husband and I were in Houston, Edgar Winter, and his brother. What was his name? Oh, gosh. Anyway, they looked like twins. They were brothers, and maybe they were. But Edgar Winter was a famous musician, and my husband, played trumpet behind him a lot when they came to Houston, because my husband was union, played trumpet. But this guy, Morg, you'll have to look him up. It's Morgue official. And he claims he's androgynous. That their gender in a variety of ways. It says some androgyny people define their gender as being between men and women, while others understand being outside the binary spectrum. Androgyny people may or may not transition physically, legally, or socially, because he's a man. He knows he's a man, apparently, but he looks like a woman. And when I first found him, I was just scamming, what they could do, surfing YouTubes, because I'd like to learn things, and I watch a lot of YouTubes, so I was surfing through it, and his look caught my eye because of Edgar Winter. He had long hair, but I was like, is that Edgar Winter? And I looked again, and I thought, wait, that's a young boy. He must be imitating. But he started pulling his shirt off and changed himself on the screen from he didn't really change. I mean, he didn't put on a beard or anything. But I'm just meaning his clothes. He was pulling his shirt off and putting another color on or something. But you knew he was a girl, and then he wasn't. So within an instant, he was such a good actor. He could make your eyes look at earring. Is he a man, a woman? But he explained later he was androgynous. So apparently it means that if you're not physically changing, legally or socially, understand your relationship with the gender transitioning within their culture. Generally, androgyny people are considered non-binary, and transgender umbrellas may or may not identify as a transgender or non-binary. Androgyny people, they'll decline the invitation for the transgender gala. The androgyny person declined the invitation. Oh, that's a statement. So you could say, I see, that's an example. The androgyny person declined the invitation to the transgender gala. So I noticed once I said that you and I were going to do this radio show today, Melinda, that YouTube came on and asked me to participate in a survey, which I've been known for 30 or 40 years in the intelligence community to help, because I used to work and get paid in Chicago while I was working for the government, and I was a GS status, but I was in between as a reservist. I was outside the gate of Great Lakes. I hadn't got my job with OPM, or I was working for Navy Regional Finance Center, but I could in between getting the government jobs, I went out and worked for a company, big company, and I was very impressed in Chicago. It's a big city like Manhattan, right? Chicago is gorgeous. But I worked in a little town between Waukegan and Chicago, and while I was working there was a wonderful place that had refrigerators. You could go get whatever vegetables or juices you want in the early 80s. And while I was there, I did surveys, and I got paid to do statistics and surveys and just check all the information that came into the company, and I got paid very well. And I thought, wow, what am I? I don't know what I was, but the job description, but I got into intelligence work again with the government in 87, right after that job doing these interviews. So we could probably do those from home, but I don't know what company that was. It was a huge company, but I noticed YouTube wanted to know if I was transgender, and that was on the description, and this information in the computers, folks, just so you know, every one of us is now tracked by our IPC code and our cell phones and how we talk and what words we use. And just because I typed this up yesterday, I believe, or was it the day before, they had time to question me and me question. It all fit with the questions that were asking me. So I thought that was very interesting that YouTube was asking me a survey based on the fact that I was doing this radio show, because before I didn't have these terms to refer to. But the minute I wrote them up and put them out there to talk about today, all of a sudden I'm in the transgender category, and I didn't know how to answer that. So because I'm asexual, my husband's passed, I'm not having sex, haven't had sex, not that anybody cares, for many years, over 10 years, at least as long as I've been doing this radio show before that. So I'm considered ACE. Do you see ACE on there? ACE? I have ACE folk life. Do you see an ACE on there?
I think so.
Let's see.
Okay.
Under the A's. Agab, agender, allosexual.
There's androgynous.
Androgynous. Aporogender. I don't know what that is. Asexual. That's me. Okay, so let's talk about that. Shortened to ACE.
Asexual?
Yeah, asexual. You want to read that out loud?
Hold on. The part where it says...
Sometimes shortened to ACE. It's a...
Hold on, wait a second. I have androgyny. Hold on a second. 1 second.
That's below androgyny.
Allosexual, ALLO sexual.
I don't have
someone
that one.
Who is not sexual.
Oh, there.
Someone who experiences sexual attraction, irrelevant of whether or not they engage in any sexual behavior, e.g., an allosexual person.
I don't know if I'm alo or allo. I think I'm asexual down here because I'm not. Well, let me see. Sometimes look two down below that.
Oh, you skipped it. I see it now. Asexual is sometimes shortened to ACE, a person who does not experience sexual attraction. Asexuality is a sexual orientation and is different from celibacy, in that celibacy is the choice to refrain from engaging in sexual behaviors and does not comment on one's sexual attraction. So an asexual individual may choose to engage in sexual behaviors for various reasons, even while not experiencing sexual attraction. So here we have asexuality is an identity, and sexual orientation is not a medical condition. Sexual attraction is not necessary for a person to thrive. And explains further. E.g., Tanya was invited to speak about asexuality due to her connections with the local asexual community.
Well, I don't experience sex because I'm not attracted to anybody. At my age, most men aren't looking at women 70 years. I will be 70 this year. I told you on the day after Christmas. But maybe some women still are attracted. Maybe I am if something is. I'm more curious in beings. I don't really think about how they have sex. So I don't know at this point. I'm not exhibiting any outward sexual attraction, and I'm sure not involved in any behavior for many, many years. So I'm not celibate, though. I mean, I don't believe it's different from celibacy. I guess celibacy is by choice, doing without sex, like in the old religions. So the monks are people that were celibate because their things were cut off or something. Is the way when I was young, watching TV and the movies, and learned a lot off of TV. I don't know, but anyway, I still have all my workings. I'm just not using the physical reality. I'm up in spiritual business that I'm in our spiritual community. I use the higher chakras, right? We start at the bottom, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and
I'm
violet.
sure I probably do too, because I'm into the chakra stuff.
Yeah, so I'm using green, blue, indigo, violet, white, gold, all the higher ones to do travel at night and dreaming and ascension and interdimensional travel, which we need to make a whole one of these ourselves for that language that I use. So I need to do all that for my UAP associates and my spiritual wellness and mystics, the mystic world. But let's go back. Let's see. Okay, so we got down. We don't know what I am yet, folks, but we know I'm not celibate.
Wow, it's got a lot of terminology over here.
So, well, let's do some that people may know. What is cisgender? Can you go down to cisgender? I've heard that before, but I don't know.
Which one?
Someone who is not transgender.
What does it start? What letter?
C.
Oh, C. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, CISGENDER. Cisgender.
Yes. Okay. Cisgender privilege. This goes into saying the privileges cisgender people have because they identify with the gender they were assigned at birth. So their gender is widely considered legitimate, both socially and legally. For example, cis people generally don't have issues with their identifying documents not matching their outward expression to the point of additional scrutiny. They also generally have bodies that confirm with society's understanding of their gender. And if they don't, they can voluntarily get surgery with relative ease, sometimes even as minors. There is generally little stigma attached to cisgender people getting a wide range of surgeries. It's important for cisgender people to recognize these privileges so they can work to make sure that basic respect is no longer a privilege, but a reality for everyone. E.g., Brenda admitted that her cisgender privilege made it hard for her to see the microaggressions her trans co-workers face daily. So that's interesting stuff there. I mean, the dynamic goes from one thing to the next and wraps you up in the thought like, okay, you start out with this and you say this, and then you add all these different factors, and this is what it is. So it's interesting. I mean, you break it down as a cisgender privilege people have because they identify with the gender they were assigned at birth. So that's the first thing that's going to drop in your head. It's for this person what they were assigned at birth. That's interesting.
Well,
so
gender, instead of inaccurate terms like biological, genetic, natal, real, or born, refer to people's gender. They call them cisgender, and agi, someone who is not transgender. Cisgender people identify with their gender they were assigned at birth. Oh, okay.
Now, the people that's the cis normativity is those who are normalizing of being cisgender, regarding transgender as an abnormality. This concept applies to the behaviors as well as bodies. For example, a trans man may not want a phalloplasty because the surgical results will not look cisnormative enough for his comfort. So the denial of fan theories about pop culture characters' trans status is an act of cisnormativity. E.g., the author created a trans character that fit the cisnormative beauty standards for a woman.
Okay, so I wonder, let's see, the normalizing of being cisgender regarding transgender as an abnormality. The concept applies to behaviors as well as bodies. For example, a trans man may not want a phalloplasty because a trans man. Okay, so like, let's say I feel like I'm a gay man in a woman's body, and I know that, but I don't want to have a penis. So that phalloplasty is like what I just said. I can't believe I said it on radio, but I did, folks. So I don't know if I'll lose my show or not, but I don't think that's a bad word since that's describing sexually phalloplasty, because surgical results will not look cisnormative enough for his comfort. So if I wanted to have a sex change, sort of, put it in layman terms. So the denial of the fan theories about pop culture characters' trans status is an act of cisnormativity. All these kids today are coming up with all these words that help everybody, because there's an exception to every rule, apparently, in this new creation of world, that we're not just welcoming. We are welcoming. This is the thing we're trying to talk about on this radio show, is we are warm and welcoming to everyone, regardless of race, color, creed, religion, sexual orientation, our new normality, the ascension age, which is the way we're awakening up our higher consciousness to ascending to higher levels, to the norm of what we think of as a higher power and a source. So I run Teresa J. Morris Ministries because I want to have a 501c3, because I've never made any money all these years, and it's been 9 years. So,
well,
actually
now
longer than that.
the cissexism or cissexist
what's that?
is an interesting dynamic now. That's a system of oppression that works on multiple levels to erase, antagonize, and produce social and physical barriers based on one's gender. Specifically, individuals who are not cisgender and or do not identify within the gender binary. This sexism also depends on a binary of cisgender and transgender, erasing and validating the vast spectrum of gender expression and identity. So now we have an example of the sexism is legislation around who can and cannot use gender-specific bathrooms based on their gender expression and or medical or legal gender. E.g., Karen began to recognize her own internalized C-sexism after her child came out as transgender.
What does that mean? I use men's bathrooms when the girls' bathroom is locked. So am I cisgender, cis-section, folks? Am I a cis-sexism? Let's look at this. And I'm trying to be serious about this, but these are words that aren't in my vocabulary, never had to be. And the kids today, the people that made this up, I looked at them, they're all in their early 20s. None of them were even over 30, it didn't appear. But they're working together as a team to help us old guys, I think the entire world, because they came out with this, and I just happened to find it in time for International Pride Month of June. Internationally, June is Pride Month around the world, to open our eyes to being more educated about these terms and the spectrum of the identity of how we talk, or we may talk in the future. It's apparently apparent among the kids going through all this, and in these groups, these support groups are meeting at wherever they meet, at the local gym, or it's not training, it's support. Or maybe it's training too. Maybe, I don't know how we're going to talk about all this, because this was they got a little bit of money to do this from some nonprofit group that had a little money, I guess, for educating. And that's all we've done here for 9 years is educate people. But I've also had spiritual Sundays because I started on a Sunday. But I'd also like science, so I don't know. I'm a little bit of everything. So what do you think, sis? Let's see, sis is...
I think it's interesting. It's just really another way of, this language being another word, I think it's really phenomenal. There's so many words to describe each a person and in their different attributes, I mean... Yeah,
it's a whole new language. It's words.
Yeah, this is a whole new language. This is not just words. It's a language.
Wow.
Tis gender, privilege, tis normative, sexism, and then they have colonialism, and that is a practice of domination which involves the subjugation of one's people to another. So the extent of colonialism impacts on indigenous understandings of gender and attraction will never be truly known due to the ways in which colonialism works to erase or otherwise destroy indigenous life and knowledge, e.g., the new textbooks have colonialized history.
Ah.
Isn't that interesting?
Now, does that mean, like, in history, like us growing up, the reason we never knew about it was probably because of this colonialism, and they hid it. Like in India, they always had he, she, and something else, right? So they would have this something else, let's say, let me talk in American English terms that I can use, folks, because I don't want to offend anybody in radio, television, and the work that I'm in, which is communication. My company is American Communication Online, so I'm trying to be honest that I don't really know how to speak about this because I wasn't educated in all this new language that the children of today in America have put together, this primer language for transgender language, and this is referring to people like we grew up reading about in our history books. So they didn't tell us in the education of books from the UK to America, all the great English-speaking, Australia, wherever you live around the world, the Emirates, they put people to death if they don't want to identify with their culture. And is that colonialism? Because they don't let people be other than either male or female. It's against the country's rules, colonialized history in textbooks. Is that how would you speak to that? What do you think this colonialism and gender, is that what I'm talking about, it being hid in the history? They didn't tell us that people could be other than? It wasn't that it wasn't there. It's just it wasn't in our history books. Melinda, can you speak to that?
Say it again?
Can you speak about this colonialism? It's a domination. See if your brain can understand that.
How to explain it? The colonialism part?
Yeah.
Let me see how I'll try. Basically taking control. Domination, complete domination. The subjugation of one to another. So you're control of someone. and their root of understanding things and the gender and the way things are attracted, and that their whole way of seeing things and doing things in this way and mannerism, the colonialism life, whatever you want to call it, it's very different than the others. Because it basically wants to erase or destroy the indigenous life, the memories of that. They don't want you to remember that.
Well, it says gender, attraction, or race.
Right, because it says also the extent of colonialism impacts, so what it does on the indigenous understandings of gender and attraction will never be truly known due to the ways in which colonialism works to erase, so it's eradicating or otherwise destroy the indigenous life and I guess the stories and legacy and knowledge. So the next textbooks heavily colonialized history. That's an example.
Well, that's basically what I'm saying is we didn't know about it. In National Geographic, we saw those pictures once of a girl, guy, asexual, and that's was a big aha with National Geographic for the world, is to learn that there were other cultures out there that didn't necessarily look male or female and had all this paint, makeup, whatever you want to say. But, I mean, a lot of kids grew up reading National Geographic and were attracted to it because of the strange people. Honestly, they looked and feel of who they were. And, you hear in other religions, they don't want you to talk about. They still banned what we used to call, everything used to be called gay. So in the old days, what would that be? 80s, late 80s when. Oh, there's a lot of information on your end. Can you read it? There's some kind of.
Yeah.
There you go. That was.
Hold on one second. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah. Time until, let's see, let me update this. I haven't even watched the show, folks. I only got 32 minutes left. Whew. Long show. 2 hours, I'm getting back into it again. Now that we're pretty much over the time that the plague around the world affected all of us, whether it was real or not. Most of us believe that people died of something that came out of a laboratory based in Wuhan, and some laboratory assistants had it a couple of months before, I think China even started telling us we got it around in the fish market over here,
But this whole stuff, the new language that they're using is really, really interesting. I mean,
yes, it is.
It's quite unique. The words, the explanations are really, really interesting.
Well, we could do this some more, folks, but we've only got 30 minutes. Well, Melinda, what else should we discuss about this first brand new beginning, Women's Wednesday's lunch with women? Let's talk a little.
We can talk about a little bit about the pandemic and how we want to encourage people to still rise to the top and do things that they want to do with their lives, and don't let anything stop them and deter them, because the pandemic is here and is here for whatever time, and that's just part of life right now. So, as you know, people are still moving and doing so. If you have hopes and dreams, don't let the pandemic stop you. Don't let anyone stop you. Be encouraged to do things with yourself in your life. If it's losing weight, if it's whatever it is, going to school, getting that education, getting some skills that you don't have, increasing your skills, whatever it is that you may need for a job or to do a task. somewhere, So,
right. So, yeah, let's talk about us women at home. And now it's going to be not just women. It could be men and women.
Yeah, the women returning to work. There's women returning to work now, and, they need more skills. Some people from a different country or speak another language. They might need to write, English. That's very important, So all these different factors and different things that make us unique and different and make our country rich, we have to get back on the bandwagon and learning some more skills, teaching ourselves, How is it that in England these kids go to school and they finish at 15 or 16, while America is the richest and most powerful country in the world, is still finishing school at 18 for the most part. So what is America doing?
Equivalent.
Yeah, what is America doing that we need to increase or encourage to get on the bandwagon and more quicker and more efficient, like the other countries? That's what I always say.
Well,
America's the richest country. We should be on the same level, especially finishing high school at 15 or 16. Why
it used to be we were ahead in education around the world, and we did rebuild the world, and it was after World War II. America sent money out to all these countries and rebuilt their beautiful land, and now Americans, after the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and then we had to, we'll just start with 2008 when I had to start rebuilding my reality all over again. Of course, when I woke up, my stepfather had died, and I was on a big truck and flown to Houston. Last time I was on a plane, believe it or not, was during 9/11. I must have flown on 9/9. Let's see, 9/9 to Houston from somewhere out west on a big truck. I don't even know. I was out West Texas, Waco, or I don't know. I drove a truck from California, and my stepfather died, and I had to go in for the funeral. So about 9/9,
well, also
2001.
you want to talk about bringing the awareness that we're here to try to educate, teach people, show people the way in a better way. There is no really,
tech-focused jobs. They've got to learn that for all those years we were sending our kids to learn computers, and now they thought it was so overdone there were no jobs. But if they're not going to get out and work, it's basically people, I don't care if you're a man or woman or asexual or cis or anything in that description, is you have to you have to survive. So what is it that makes you survive is you need food, clothing, shelter. And people that are poor in America, a lot of them, I have friends living in tent cities or tent communities, and some live in their cars and they call in. Oh, goodness, there's noise again. I don't know what that is. You have to keep that electric sound off, Melinda. What is that? Okay. I don't know what that is, but it's very scratchy. Interesting. This is the first show I've done with Melinda, folks, and there's a lot of interference, so I apologize. It'll be a rough recording for us. You'll hear it, Melinda, when you call in.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it comes across. I don't know if you're opening a channel on the computer or what, but it makes a lot of scratchy noise. You'll hear it. It sounds like...
no, I don't hear anything.
Oh,
but
well, when you come back, you'll hear it. The history in radio, there it goes again. Oh, let me check on my end.
Okay.
No, it's not on my end. Interesting. Well, hold on.
I'm here.
Off. All right, I've got the sound off on my computer. I just push a button, and I can see and I can scroll on my Microsoft Word, and look at the words we were talking about. But
you want to continue to go to another word?
We need to go
coming out.
Well, no, we talked about you and your introduction, your origin story. Then we talked about all this talk of the New World for the Pride month of June and Transgender Language Primer. And that was important. And then talking about jobs, because, folks, we've met a lot of people that help us because we do this free. And not everybody can afford to work from their homes free. So they have to have something about paying their food, clothing, and shelter for them. And a lot of people are disabled at home or on government, or like me, I am on Social Security because of my age, and I am retired. But our government pretty much at 60 wants you out by 62. And I know a lot of people in law enforcement and security that don't like that. They feel like they shouldn't be kicked out of the government till they're like 65 or 6 retirement age. So there's changes we need to make because we can still walk and talk pretty good in our government jobs. But I feel like we should raise it to 65 instead of kicking people out of the government jobs, GS, wage grade, IS, whatever it is, or military. But the military doesn't want you because you can't physically get around pretty well after a certain age. And I went in the second time as a 4x10 rehire at 33. That's the picture you'll see of me in the uniform, second time around with the Navy. And so I had already been in as HM3. And oh, you were HM3. Let's talk about that. When we were kids, women could go into the military, but we got out because I had kids and you had family. But we thought we needed something. And I love the military for training purposes. It is good training, but a lot of people can't because of they disqualify because they're flat-footed or they have scoliosis of the spine or they can't see good. But I had all the perfect eyesight, was going to be air traffic controller, so they sent me to Memphis. But a lot of people have good bodies and good minds, and if you have both, there's nothing to keep you from going in the military except lack of education. I understand you have to have, like you said, minimum of 18 years high school or equivalent GED. I don't even know if they'll take equivalent anymore for those that get bored and clep out or just.
No, I don't think they do anymore.
Really? Okay, well, that's something
I think they just say you have to, you might be right. Things change, you know.
They change all the time, even the health, and we're going to talk about health on another show. But for now, women at home, what kind of jobs can we do at home in tech on our computers? Can you help us out? You're in public relations, and you've been working with a guy. You said
what
you've known him for like 50 years.
I think a very important skill to have to get a job in general is excellent communication skills. Being able to communicate, articulate your thoughts in a way that everyone can understand. So that's very important. And if you don't have that and you feel, like a low self-esteem, you need to work on those things. Those are some skills that you need to fix, And those can be taken by a course. Either you could take courses online. You can look into that. Personal development. There's all different things that you can use to help yourself grow. And in educational form and in every way that you possibly can. So when you put your resume together, it might be basic, but it might speak a little bit more about you with volume because you have some other skills that are acquired and skills that are necessary for that particular job. So no skill, you never learn too many skills, but what you need to shine for that particular job, if it's something in communications, you need to be able to speak well, write well, communicate on a level where everyone can understand you. And I don't care if you have a PhD or 5 PhDs. If you speak to someone and they don't understand you, then you need to break it down in a way that everyone can understand. So they don't feel uncomfortable and everybody is good with the language and the verbiage. So it's very important how we communicate to one another, keeping that dialogue going. So you meet someone at a job fair, okay? That person might be great for job fair. So you're going to go and do this, continue. You have to keep whatever it is, your system going, be passionate about what you do, and document what you do so that you know what you did and you know where you need to go. You have direction. If you don't have that, your ducks in a row, then you're going to be all over the place. So you're trying to put yourself into finding a job, whether it's online, working from home. You got to have some organization skills, a block of time that you're going to put down and say, well, from 12 to 3, I'm going to answer phones. That's all I'm going to do, or whatever it is that you can do at that time. So if that job requires you to be, picking up phones, and you pick up the phone. You have a phone at your home, and then you'll be able to do that. So there's a lot of different things you have to determine if you're going back into the workforce. And like I said, be open to learning things, just open to learn and grasp knowledge. Knowledge is power.
And you're going to help train people to get back into digital networking, public relations work. However, you have to be paid for your time and services, folks, from home, and that's very hard to do because unless you have a
and a
skill,
lot of times people think that you don't want to help them. Like I have an athlete, for instance, today. I'm not going to bring up the person's name because it's not important, but they might think that I'm not trying to help them. I can't speak to them 20 times a day because they're not paying me. I'm not branded with them. I don't have a contract. So if you're not, everything is not good on your side, you have to be patient in this world of public relations and people getting back to you in the media because people are very busy. There are things happening and dynamics happening at the same time, as this pandemic is going. So just be cognizant that patience is a true virtue. People do get back to each other, and we do respect each other. And so you want to understand that. The only way you can understand is putting your foot forward, helping each other, and communicating, and being respectful when you meet people in this field. Because a lot of people want to help, but I'm not going to help you if you're going to talk to me like I'm some type of animal or some type of servant of yours, like, olden days or something, because I'm not there. This is America. We all are equal. We all have the ability to speak appropriately and together. You want to work on something, you work on it together, not at each other. So that's the difference between working.
Let's tell people what they need. They need a photo and a bio and a resume, and you need to be on LinkedIn, folks. LinkedIn.
Well, you need to be on LinkedIn. Get yourself on LinkedIn. Put a simple profile. Put your picture, a photo of yourself. Nothing crazy, and basically just tell who you are, what you are, and having that resume shine you, so we can know what you're about and what you're looking for. So and be open to discuss things. That's all. Just be open and learning, because as I said, Teresa is an abundance of knowledge and skills and understanding of many, many, many years ahead of me. So I'm grateful to know someone with so much knowledge and that can share that. So, any questions, and I always say there's no dumb question. There is no question. If you don't ask it, then it becomes a dumb situation because you know what? You don't know if someone else is thinking the same way you are. So
now,
just think about it.
Let's talk about we're all 1099s, independent contractors, folks, because none of us can afford to pay employees when we're sitting at home on our own phone and computers. As women going back to work, wanting to network and to help each other in communications to help other people, but advertising is paying your free Facebook. Don't think anything's free. There's always a cost. And these a lot of people get involved like I did. I was trained by Civitan, Civitan. Oh, there's some feedback. I don't know. Maybe it's on the Direct TV. Not Direct. It's on my carrier is Mediacom and in New York. But you don't hear any feedback?
Huh?
Okay. Let's explain. We've got 15 minutes left. I want to explain, Melinda, to people that as women, we own our own business. That means we operate under our own Social Security, our own license, our own home business. And there are rules going into force in open source communication online. But I'm an evangelist for having people communicate around the world, just like Gates and, I guess, what's his name, Mark Zuckerberg for Facebook, Instagram, whatever. These people became multi-billionaires, okay? Now, if you can't figure out how that was done, educate yourself and learn how they did it. Otherwise, just because they were in the right place at the right time doesn't necessarily make you a millionaire or billionaire by following in their footsteps, which I've learned. It does help to have a model and a mentor in relation to how you want to grow and train yourself.
Well, part of the whole deal of getting back in the world of work is building relationships with people that can be your mentor, can be a coach, someone who can lead you if you need writing, if you need whatever the different, you need to speak to someone in human relations. You know, there's different people in the world of work, and you meet each one, and each person is different in their own way because each person is trained. So to share the experience, the knowledge, and to understand that if you need help, always be open to help and to grow.
I got hurt and injured and was disabled. So I understand people that have disabilities. That's another reason I was working as president of Civitan. They were based on helping people in the Special Olympics and people that were disabled. But they were a community of people in a nonprofit, and they all worked free, and they all worked as a social fellowship group. You've got to understand, there's corporations out there that are not for profit. They don't pay their personnel, and the people work for them because they have other jobs, and they do this as a fellowship or a club or an organization that helps network and helps people. Mm-hmm. And they were built around building money up around those little boxes that gave free peppermint candy, and you put your cents. And they were raised on dimes, nickels, and pennies. And they put those little boxes out, and all the companies would go around, and I've done it myself. Ask little companies, if our little stores, if we could put them at the checkout stand, at the point of sale for this company. And then I help go and I put asphalt in holes with a shovel of another company that was hiring disabled people where I lived in Ohio County, Kentucky at Tamerlane Industries, and I was the president. Sounds good, doesn't it? Wow, president of a big nonprofit local county. But I was out shoveling asphalt and dirt like everybody else. So we were doing it free. We were doing it because we're in service to others, and there's lots of nonprofits. They're like churches, folks. Learn the difference with the what you organize with people that are not paid. They are doing it out of the goodness of their hearts because they're good, kind people, and they want to give back to their community and fellowship of humans. That's humanity for you. We have them. This country was built on America, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Masons, like American National the Red Cross. Now, there are some of them wind up being paid inside, very few of them, to run the organizations and get on payroll. But you've got to learn there are profit and not for profit. There's people on payroll and not payroll. There's people that are entrepreneurs that are paid. They're not paid, or they're either their own owner, they are a sole proprietor, or they form a limited liability company. And if you don't want to work at your local Walmart or something that you did as a kid, I have a lot of women and disabled people that went back to work part-time because they needed the money to put food, clothing, and shelter for their children. Even though they were disabled, they worked around whether they could work one arm. One lady didn't have only one arm, but she was still checking people out at the cashier. One person couldn't see or whatever, but they greeted people at the front door. So there's jobs out there. I'm not saying that they're the best jobs or the best paid jobs, but at least learn if you need help, bring money in on a payday or something until you can move up to the next rung on the ladder. And that's what people that do it free are here to. A helping hand is what all these churches used to be about. They weren't just about sending prayer and requests up to the next level in heaven. They were about learning how to help feed the hungry and help people get clothing for their children or help them get stuff. And now the schools used to pay for all our stuff. And now I hear all my children and my grandchildren have to pay extra money for their school supplies. And now, after this pandemic, they've all been going online. So we've got a new world, and we have to accept that the new normal may not be exactly the way it was a year ago. Now, Las Vegas is open back up, and I'll let you talk, Melinda. It's all about knowing the different ways you can make money yourself. And if you're disabled, you can work part-time and not lose your, but you check in with whoever is your representative with the government. You can still, whatever state you're in, state, local, community. But now on the other side of that, Melinda, you know people want to work and they want something to do with their time so they can meet people. But now it's gotten to be a digital world. We're all forming this cyberspace culture on the internet highway. It's a whole new world inside a world. And we've got to figure out how we can all help each other survive and make money. But only the big companies that pay advertising, if you build up a big following, you may get lucky like some of these kids on TikTok and whatever, Snapchat, Instagram. They get people that they sell their products or talk about their products. YouTube people build up such a following, they're getting paid. But YouTube cut a bunch of that out off of them, people complaining of their copyrighted material on other people's channels, making money off of their name and their endorsement or their brand. So now we're starting all over again, and we've got to look at what the government, what FCC, Federal Communications Company, I guess, FCC, what they're going to allow and what rules and how we're all going to make money in the future around the world on the internet. And Melinda, you and I can talk all day, but we have to pay for our internet at home, our cell phone, and the overhead, even for this radio show today, is costing me money personally. So I have my own personal budget for a business that I pay money into a business that I own that shows no profit. Not that I want to or not that I need a write-off because I don't have a pot to piss in. I don't own a home. I don't own any real estate. I own absolutely nothing by choice as a minimalist, and I rent a home, and I bought all the furniture in here from a used furniture place and started all over when my husband died, and I had to come take care of my daughter. But I have been called a millionaire in my lifetime because I was the CEO of a corporation. I'm very happy about that I got that knowledge as a profit corporation, and I served with Civitan as a nonprofit president. And so my training has helped me immensely, not to mention all the training I got from the government. Training. And so, folks, if you can get your training and then be at the right place at the right time. Now, a lot of people, there's going to be jobs in Mobile because the government, maybe where they have 100 or more jobs in Mobile are coming available, but you've got to be willing to work for the company with a contract from the government, and it's unloading material on the port. It's working around hazardous material. So some people are going to have to do those jobs that may not want to, but they need a job. So let me tell you that Indeed is the new name of the company that I hear from most people. Have you heard of that, Melinda? Where you signed up with Indeed?
Yeah, Indeed, LinkedIn. Just go on to different websites, sign your name up, and have your email address attached so you can send your emails of new jobs and updates and where is hiring and where is not hiring. You'll always be in the know. And, Indeed, LinkedIn, career.com. There's so many different ones out there. The list just begins. There's no end. So just keep plummeting, and you will get something as long as you're looking and sincerely looking.
Now, if you want to work with me, I like people that have time and they have a cell phone and a computer. I have different people running different companies as individual entrepreneurs, and all of them are on not making money, but at the same time they hope to make money in the future while they build up their network, and they get a job part-time for working for somebody else, and yet they're running their own company like an entrepreneur. So a lot of people do that. And just like in churches, they don't pay their clergy. Some companies pay their clergy, some don't, meaning their chaplain or their minister or pastor. Most people now online are not paid. They have donations given to them as online churches. I don't even have that for myself after all these years. So I'm gonna have my Ascension Church Ohana nonprofit on Sundays, and helping people that can't afford to pay for their own radio shows or to promote themselves. And Here's how advertising is paid for. Marketing is what we all do online. Digital marketing is what it's called. And public relations work is always free.
Yeah.
That's the way you learn marketing. There's public relations and advertising. So get that through your heads, folks, that PR work are people you hire to promote you. Now, you can have an agent out there that is a hired person. You hire them to be your agent. And if you're trying to get into Hollywood, you get an agent. And public relations is the practice of deliberately managing and releasing and spreading information between an individual or organization and the public.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up now.
Okay.
Right? Going to wrap it up and...
Tell people how to get in contact with you, Melinda. Melinda T Clare.
Okay, if you would like to contact me and possibly be on a podcast or be here and a guest with myself and Teresa, you can email me at Melinda, MELINDA _CLARE @yahoo.com. So, take it from there, make a connection, and we'll reach out to you. Thanks for having me, Teresa. It was a pleasure to have me on today.
Melinda, what about LinkedIn?
Just give them my email address, that's all. Melinda _Clare @yahoo.com.
All right, and I'm TJ Morris Agency.
Okay.
All right. And Melinda is a woman in business at home. And if you'd like to do this again, she's going to look at her schedule and get in contact with her.
I'm looking for people. I'm very into art, and I love Feng Shui. So if there's anybody that likes Feng Shui and you want me to collaborate with you and I can show you what I'm doing with my space and things like that, I can share that with you as well. And we can have another project. So there's just a ton of different opportunities and things that we can do together. So, again, I thank you, Teresa, for having me on. I love to work with you again on another segment. And look forward to hearing from people. Hopefully you're getting some waves and calls or messages from people in your mailbox, and hopefully myself.
All right, we'll see how this goes for Women Wednesdays Lunch. If you liked it, please let Melinda T Clare, CLARE, know. And me, Teresa J. Morris. You can look me up on YouTube, our ACO Press Club. If you want to be in our press club, we ask you to join Society of Professional Journalists. That's spj.org, O-R-G, spj.org. And I have ACO Association. If you'd like to be associated with us as journalists, or if you want to be an author, we have a publishing company. We have an authors club online, and we also have a speakers bureau for ACIR radio. You'll go to acirradio.com, and we're starting our speakers bureau. And I'm also promoting Mystic Guide for mystics. I'm promoting Esoteric Guide for those that study esoterics. I have Spiritual Wellness Guide for those that are about spiritual wellness. I have Psychic Guide for those that are psychics. And we're starting a Who's Who directory. And Melinda has asked to help me on a project that is really going to be a lot to do for veterans. And that is anybody that is a veteran, we will give you a free listing in our Who's Who directory between Melinda and I being prior military, Navy veterans. And we are going to have a directory and help you whatever you need to get hooked up. And hopefully you know how to get involved with the government if you're a veteran. All right. Well, Melinda, you're a wonderful teacher, a wonderful trainer, and you helped us with this new normal transgender language. And this is Pride Month. Gender is complicated. Women in business today. So please get in touch with Melinda T Clare or Teresa J. Morris if you're a woman wanting to have a lunch with us and talk on radio. And hopefully it'll work out on Wednesdays. And we'll do it again, Melinda, if people like us and want to do it again. We'll have to come up with some topics.
Yep, I would love to do it again.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.